Okay, let's go ahead and get started there, everybody. Welcome back to another Strange Road Gym stream. I'm your host, Strange Road Gym, and today we're going to be um, getting back into. Um, we're going to show a little bit of the remaining Conceptis puzzles before it does the update later on tonight. Um, I'll show off the puzzles that I'm probably not going to be doing. But I still want to kind of show them to kind of say, hey, I've done these puzzles from time to time, but they're not typically my go-to for the most part. So, and then right now I have Honkai Star Rail downloading. So, um, so once it's finished with that and doing all of its updates and all that kind of jazz, then we'll get started there. In the meantime, I'll try to see about um, trying to tackle any like additional, if there's anything additional that I might need to kind of work on. So, um, okay, so let me see about. Oh wait, this is in the Genshin Impacts collection. Okay. Let me switch this on over to Conceptis here real quick. Hopefully that doesn't screw a lot of things up. We'll see. Be patient. Okay. There's that. Let's see. There we go. Okay. And then we'll just go ahead and transition over there. There we go. Awesome. So um, I was able to, you know, got the new monitor in. Thankfully, it wasn't too expensive. Um, Although I need to figure out how to see if there's any kind of tilt on the stand right now because um, when it first came to me, it's kind of tilted down a little bit more, and that's not great. You kind of want it to be straight on. Like the screen needs to be kind of flat to your eyes. Otherwise, you're just going to damage your eyes, right? So so either I'm going to have to be like, super far back, like this, trying to make sure that everything is perfectly fine, or it's going to be I'm going to have to maybe prop it up a little bit more. I think it's still not exactly perfect yet. Or find out how to actually tilt the stand, which I'm not really seeing anything directly. So if it gets to a point where my eyes start kind of hurting, then obviously I'll be shutting down the stream early. You know, don't really want to cause any additional damage to my eyes or anything along those lines. I'm already kind of, I mean, a lot of people say that if you're looking at a monitor for too long, you're damaging your eyes anyway, right? So I don't necessarily want to be causing more damage. So um, so yeah, the so let's kind of talk about these other games that probably not going to be dealing with. So let's go with the Kakuru here. Don't think I have any windowed scenes for that right at this moment in time. Let me see. Wait, let me go back here real quick because there are instructions for it, and I can just look at the instructions and kind of tell you about it. So, um, so the rules are, so you get basically a grid like this. I don't know if you guys can kind of see that very well. Here, let me see if I can zoom in a bit. Okay, there you go. So you get this basic grid here with these numbers here, right? So and these are kind of pointing in the, like this part right here is kind of pointing down, whereas this part is kind of pointing to the right. And if there was anything like, on the left-hand side pointing that way, then, well, I mean, there's there's never anything that is like pointing to the left. It's always either, pointing to the right or pointing down. Okay. It's never considered like, hey, this is pointing and like this 6 is pointing up. No, it's never along those lines. Otherwise, you'd have a mismatch right here, right? 4 and 6 don't really match with each other. So the concept behind this is that you are having basically an addition of numbers to match the number in, you know, on that block. So this 4, for example, you have the 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. It's always a sum, okay, um, to equal that. And then you kind of match it with the 3 that's kind of going to the right, and you have the 1 plus 2 to equal that 3. So, um, and then you can kind of go through all this to see, about trying to solve it all, trying to fill out this entire grid here with numbers. And, that's basically how you go about solving the overall puzzle. Um, let's now, um, when you, um, let's see, can I? No, it opens up a separate window. All right. Well, looks like I'm not going to necessarily be able to show that right at this moment in time. But as you can see, there's definitely different, you know, styles to it. Different sizes, different, patterns, and so on and so forth. And of course, the overall difficulty increases over time, right? Um, so yeah, you know, you have pretty much the same kind of process to it. The fact of the sums, more often than not. I don't think they do anything like multiplication or anything along those lines with Kakuro. I think it's always sum, so you don't have to necessarily worry too much about that. So it can be a fairly easy puzzle. My problem is that um, I'm spending a lot of time putting in pencil marks into the puzzle instead of solving it. I feel like I spend more time putting pencil marks in for it than I do actually solving the puzzle outright. So, and um, it's not that's not too enjoyable for me when I have to kind of deal with that. Um, like there's other puzzles for me to kind of do, you know. The reason why I don't, like um, I put in a lot of pencil marks in here because sometimes you don't know exactly, where the numbers might line up properly. Now, some of it might be perfectly fine, right? Um, but other time, some numbers might be fairly easy to figure out, based off of like um, what you have, next to it, right? Like this 4, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this 4 here with the 3 and 1. Well, the problem with this is that you can have a 3 here and you can have the 1 there, so it's never, it's never necessarily like a black and white kind of scenario. It's not, you know, that easy to automatically go, oh yeah, this is here and that's there. So that's why I say, more often than not, I have to spend a lot of time doing pencil marks on it, and that's, you know, um, not much I can really do about that. Um, let's see. So that's pretty much what, this one is all about. Okay, and obviously, the size changes, the type changes, kind of thing. So, um, but the larger the puzzle, the more time it takes to pencil everything in, and it's like, not exactly, you know, I'll do it if I'm like if I don't really have anything else to do, but normally it's not one that I go to first. Just saying. Um, Now we have the Nurikabe, which this one I've had some problems with in the past. So the idea behind it is that um, the numbers represent the number of white squares that are connected to said number. Okay. The premise behind it is that you know all the black squares are connected in some way or another. By the cardinal directions. Okay, not connected diagonally. They have to be connected. Either north, south, north, south, east, west. They have to be connected in one of those directions. So, um, so, um, each island contains exactly one clue. So you can't, you don't have like the 3 and 5 connected by, their own particular island. Okay, so that's another thing. Um, there are no wall areas, which, these black areas are the walls, that are large and 2 by 2 and larger. So you can't have like a square of black area, you know. Um, and when completed, all walls form a continuous path. I I've had some issues with this, and I don't know. I've had like uh, there's some things where it's like oh yeah, you don't have any connectors between the 3 and 5 here, for example. But I don't know. I just don't. It doesn't feel like I have a lot of knowledge about the puzzle, so it feels like I'm more kind of guessing at times on the Neurokombi puzzles than anything else. And I don't know. I just don't like um that possibility. So um now obviously, there's other things that, I can kind of do to, verify that and stuff like that, but you know, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like um it feels as though I'm having to kind of guess where the islands are first to see where the walls are, kind of thing. And that's not great. Or at least it doesn't, or at least it seems that way to me. Now, some people might disagree with me. I mean, feel free to. You're welcome to have your own opinion, but it's just kind of how I felt with the puzzle. There's too much interpretation on it that um, I can just kind of do whatever I want to, and it might still work out sometimes. I don't know. But obviously, um, you know, you'd have to, you know, play it for yourself, you know, and see, if you agree with me or not, But this is not typically a puzzle that I enjoy playing very often, so I typically ignore it for the most part. Just saying. Okay, so um, now we have the you know Data-Pix here, which um, you know when I said that it is literally just connecting 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so on and so forth. I really did mean that. There's no puzzle to this. There's nothing here that makes it any challenge at all on it. So that's the reason why I don't do the Data-Pix puzzles at all. There's nothing here, you know. There's no challenge in this puzzle because there really isn't a puzzle on it. It's just, you know, can you find one? Can you find two? Draw a line between the two. That's it. That's the challenge. And it's like, um, if there was maybe something else going on with the Data-Pix, like, um, like maybe there's some like mathematical equations to the numbers or something like that, then maybe there's a little bit more of a challenge to it. Maybe there's a little bit more of a puzzle. But obviously that would be kind of difficult to try to do mathematical equations on all the dots and stuff like that. So I don't really find this to be that much of a challenge overall. So um so yeah. Um Okay, the Mesa-Pix. So they typically give you a maze for you to kind of get through. And all you're doing is drawing a line from the start to the finish, and it basically draws an image for you. That's it. So really, I mean, you know, um, sometimes it can be interesting, but for the most part, um, I guess I tend to enjoy making mazes than solving them myself. So it's not one that I tend to look at. Plus, it really doesn't feel too much like a challenge either on some of these. So not always, sometimes. So hey there, Cameron, how you doing? Welcome back to the stream. How's your day been? So, um, so yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, sometimes you might have something interesting, but for the most part, there really isn't too much there, too much of a challenge. If it was like maybe a multi-level kind of thing, like I mentioned before, where um, you had to kind of figure out, it gave you like a little bit more of a challenge to the maze, then I might try this a little bit more, but you know, Or like maybe it gives you like multiple entrances and one exit, and you have to determine like, hey, does, is one of the entrances the correct entrance or not? I don't know. I feel like there's probably like better challenges out there when it comes to mazes. So, um, you just got something new in the mail today? Oh, okay. What did you get? So that's why I'm like, okay. I mean, it's if you enjoy doing mazes, then it's an interesting puzzle. But for the most part, I don't really find it too challenging. So um, so I typically get through it fairly quickly for the most part. So I just kind of ignore it. So um, now let's see, Simba-Pix. Um, oh yeah, this one. We have, basically for the Simba-Pix, it's amount of um, the dots themselves are kind of representing like um, what the overall box might potentially contain. Like if it's only like one single box, then it might, just be, one there, but um um overall, you know, it's it can be a little interesting, but at the same time, I often find that I could get it gets to a point where it feels like I have to kind of guess at the puzzle a little bit, especially if it gets to a extremely large puzzle, and the pathing of one of the boxes that has to be symmetric, by the way, you know, might extend for like, across the entire box or across the entire puzzle or something. So it's not, um, so sometimes it might be interesting, but for the most part, I don't necessarily enjoy it as much. But I mean, it's available if anybody wants to kind of give that a try. So okay, so it's looking like Blackheart is up. Okay, let me go ahead and bring up his channel. There we go. Want to kind of keep an eye on their channels overall. So okay, so that's basically what the Simba-Pix is. Not one that I do often, but I like I said, it's one of those that I may play if I don't really have anything else. Like it's kind of falls in the same line as the Kakuro one. So, like the overall field might be extremely large, so trying to find every single last, box in here feels more like a chore than anything else. So I don't really play this one very often. So, um, the Block-a-Pix. Let's go to this one here. So for this one, you're typically given numbers, right? And it could either be a single digit or an extremely uh, long line, for that particular color. It could be a rectangle, it could be a square. You don't really know. Okay, it's all based off of the number. I was kind of showing this one off the other day. So obviously anything that has like an odd number, you know, is typically a line. You can't have anything that is like a curve to it. Um, so it's either a line, a rectangle, or a square. It can't be anything else, right? So, um, hey there, Chris. How you doing? Welcome back to the chat. How's your day been? Um, so yeah, this one can be kind of interesting and can also be a little challenging as well. Trying to find all of the possibilities. Um, the One of the things about this though is that one of the things that can be quite challenging about this puzzle is that the number could be like the entire size of the entire puzzle. Like you could have like one number that, is the entire puzzle. Although obviously they wouldn't necessarily do that. What are they going to do? Like, this image is a block. Congratulations. It's like, wait, what? you know. So no, they obviously have a picture that, you know, is something a little bit more advanced than just a simple block or, something along those lines. But the overall size of the numbers that they might give you could reach up into like the 50s at times. I've seen numbers that reach up into the 50s, and you know, so that's where sometimes I have a little bit of a problem with the overall size, or sometimes it gets to a point where I can't logically figure out what to kind of do next on these puzzles. Sometimes it gets to a point where I'm gonna have to try to um, you know either work with the numbers from time to time to see what works and what doesn't work. And more often than not, this is one where I often have to kind of use the check for to see whether or not the block that I put in is correct. Now, all they do is that they show you whether or not the block is correct or not. If the block is wrong, like here, let me kind of go back to the screen right here. Like say um like let's say that this 8, I move the 8 to the entire length of the box or something like that, right? Instead of this rectangle shape, right? So when I hit the check, it would just basically say that this 8 is wrong, and that's it. It doesn't show you any kind of answers to it. It just tells you, this one is wrong, and there you go. Like if you maybe move the 3 up instead of down, for example, then it would show that the 3 is wrong. It would also show that the 8 is wrong as well, but you get what I'm saying though. Okay. Especially if you try to, put something together for the 8. But or you established the 8 block already with the 3, or you have multiple blocks that you try to build and got them wrong, then it'll show you all the blocks that you got wrong. So, um, the check can be helpful in this particular, um, and for this particular puzzle. It doesn't actually show you the answer, so typically I don't really mind, you know, when using the check for these puzzles, because sometimes it's just don't really need to worry too much about that. So, okay, we got the Fill-a-Pix. So on this one's a little interesting because um, the numbers represent how many of the boxes are filled in around it. So if you have a 0, then that means all the boxes that are connected to it, even the ones that are diagonal to it, so these 9 boxes here, around the 0, there's no filled in boxes whatsoever. They're all blank. So you have to kind of make sure that they, have the X marks, meaning that there's nothing there. It's completely blocked off. You can't put any filled in boxes anywhere next to the 0, right? If you have something that has a 9 to it, that means that all the boxes are filled in. Okay? So all 9 boxes around that 9 are filled in, and there you go. So you basically build the puzzle off those numbers that are given to you. Okay? Um, and obviously, um, um, if you fill in too much or too little, then the check will basically tell you that, um, the check will actually show you that, the box is filled in incorrectly, which does show you the answer. So I don't really use the check too often with the Fill-a-Pix, but at times I still might, because there might be a point in it where I might have accidentally filled in the box in a wrong location at times. So sometimes the check does kind of save my errors that I made for these puzzles, but it can be an interesting one, you know. Um, and it can be, very small and simple, or it can be, you know, a fairly large puzzle overall, and it may take you a while to fill it all in. So, um, you know, like just looking at this one, for example, you know, like obviously I don't have the credits or anything like that to purchase it, so but I mean, if you just look at the overall size of this puzzle here, then you can tell it might take you a while, 45 by 35. So, um, so yeah. But I sometimes, you know, work on these puzzles as well. The last puzzle that I'll talk about is the Link-a-Pix. So, the Link-a-Pix, you're basically combining lines with a number that is, you know, um, kind of associated, the same number, right? Um, so like, you know, ones will just be isolated. They don't have any kind of connecting box to it. It's just that one box has that one number, and that's it. Okay, you only fill in for that one number, and there you go. When it comes to the two, there has to be another box next to it that is also another two. You can't find, you're not going to see a two, like, if you replace this one here with a two, it won't work, because if there's no other two around it, then, you know, it's, the puzzle doesn't necessarily work out that way. You need to have a line between, the first two and the second two. Okay? So those have to connect. The threes have to connect. But here's the thing. You can also have threes that are bending. You know, you can have curved threes, or you can have curves in your lines. Okay, so they don't have to be straight lines, as shown here. So you can see that, like, the 7 here and the 8 there has quite a bit of curve to it. So um, so just bear in mind that the path of the connection between the, two eights, for example, here might, take a bit of a trip. So, um, or if, the eights are super close to each other, then it might be, might take a low, long route. The nines are really close to each other, so you can't necessarily connect, 9 with 9. Now, um, something that I need to mention here, okay? The the numbers represents how long that line is, okay? So a 3 to 3, you have to span 3 blocks, okay? 4 to 4 spans 4 blocks, 5 to 5, 5 blocks, and so on and so forth. You get the gist. So, so you can't necessarily go, hey, I'm going to go 5 to 5 by doing, 1, 2, and 3. Doesn't work that way. You have to have a total of 5 blocks, filled in for it to be correct, to be exact. So that's why, this one can be a little interesting and can also be, quite challenging, especially if you're given a lot of room to, a lot of open space to work around and to work with. If there's a lot of open space and a lot of large numbers, then you're at that point where like you're not quite sure, you know, where your line might go. You know, it could do like a spiral. It could do, a right turn, a left turn. It couldn't go straight. Who knows? Okay. So that's why it can be an interesting puzzle overall. So um, also color coding is also a thing for the color Link-a-Pix. So for example, a green 3 will not connect with a red 3. So now that might get a little like I don't know if they have any form of uh, accessibility for anybody that's might be colorblind. So the color picks might be problematic in that regards. Um, so um, so I'm not sure. Uh, I would hope that they would have something available for accessibility, but that would also have to mean that they would need to like add like additional details to their overall puzzle field as well. Like, hey, this 7 is R or, aka red, or maybe, they have specific symbols that they put on there. I don't really know. If they do, great. If they don't, maybe that's something that they'll have to consider in the future. Um, but yeah. So that's basically Link-a-Pix. So that's basically all of the other puzzles that are available here on Conceptis. So um, if they come up with any new puzzles, then I'll chat about that when and if they do. Um, but for the most part, it's been a very, you know, I've had some, good times with the puzzles overall. Um, so, um, I guess you can also see the fact that, how many, um, like, you know, you can look to see like how many puzzles they've created over time, for, um, you know, versus, something that might be, potentially like brand new. So, so yeah, there you go. That's basically a little bit of a rundown of all the other puzzles on Conceptus. but that's basically it on that. So I'm going to go ahead and close down this recording of the video. We're not going to go into any formal puzzles. Honkai Star Rail has finished downloading, so we're going to get into that in just a second. So for those of you watching right now on stream, stay right there. Don't go anywhere. Or if you do go somewhere, hopefully I'll see you back here. For those of you watching on YouTube, a like and subscribe would be fantastic. But again, that's up to you. Check out the description for other social media links, or any other. I have multiple links down there, so check them out if you want to. But that's going to be it for today's Conceptis video. So hope you enjoyed the tutorial of them. And we will be doing some more puzzles tomorrow. So look forward to that. So that's going to be it. So stop recording.